disciples are scared, but they will all come back to you. Yeah, they will all come back to you. But nobody there means no one to share your last meal with. Your spirit's in disrepair. You wonder if Siddhartha wished all the Buddha. Was he scared? Hope his people make it back to hell. Hope his people make it back to hell. Devil's always after hell. Yeah, the devil's always after hell. Oh, Apollo, can we be spared and wait for impending disaster? Oh, does anything care? Oh, they write in Zoroaster. Oh, are you even there? Or is it life in darkness after? Oh, is it life in darkness after? Oh, are you even there? Or is it life in darkness after? Oh, is it life in darkness after? Oh, about the way the world's crumbling down and down and down. No beach, just coast will come closer to town. Well, I see San Francisco Bay in the sundown through goggles or underground. Suddenly, California can't be found. Should all take a good last look around. It's closing time. I leave on the neon glow and the open sign. You're coming anytime, but you passed it by the road you're on. Gotta try to turn around your own design. Oh, but you're running out of time. How long do you think we'll stumble around and drown, saying the structure of the world was faulty found? For what it's worth, the earth say nothing at all, at all, at all. How long till the third tallest tower falls? It's closing time. I'll leave on the neon glow at the open sign. You're coming anytime, but you passed it by the road you're on. Gotta try to turn around your own design. Oh, but you're running out of time. There's hope alive inside. You're coming anytime, 'cause there's hope alive inside. You're running out of time, but there's hope alive inside. You're coming anytime, 'cause there's hope alive inside. Oh, but you're running out of time. I wonder why you walked on by. Could it be so hard to smile? I think I'll follow you at least another mile and hold it down, but won't you all the while? All the while. Ever since our two roads have crossed, I don't know if I'm lost. I suppose that it's possible. Could you help me find God? I'm exhausted. Had it, I lost it. No matter the cost, won't just watch you walk on by. Could you say it if I should even give it a try? I don't want you to lie. I want your love is all I want for my life. To have love is all I want for my life. To have love is all. To have love is all I want for my life. To have love is all. And I wonder now if you knew somehow I was following behind. I'm on a cloud to help me write down this song of mine. You hold your head down, 'cause it's always on your mind. It's always on your mind. Ever since our two roads have crossed, I don't know if I'm lost. I suppose that it's possible. Could you help me find God? I'm exhausted. Had it, I lost it. No matter the cost, won't just watch you walk on by. Could you say it if I should even give it a try? I don't want you to lie. I want your love is all I want for my life. To have love is all I want for my life. To have love is all. To have love is all I want for my life. To have love is all. You should say anything I can do for you. Should say anything I can do for you. Should say anything I can do for your love. 'Cause for love you're gonna need two roads have crossed. I don't know if I'm lost. I suppose that it's possible. Would you help me find God? I'm exhausted. Had it, I lost it. No matter the cost, we'll just watch you walk on by. standing on the patio outside your door. I knock once more, wishing that you loved me so much more, and that you'd open up this door. Baby, if you could somehow see the simple man I could be, I think you love, my love, and if you want it, then it's yours. Got a ticket in the crowd outside your door. I feel ignored, but now I know why I hold the number 4. And know you'll never love me more. Baby, if you could somehow see the simple man I could be, I think you love, my love, and if you want it, then it's yours.
Check. Alright.
Hanging on the handle on your door, never felt less like a man before. Can't you see that I need this? And we could be so damn much more. Oh baby, if you could somehow see the simple man I could be, I think you love, my love, and if you want it, then it's yours.
Welcome to the Cole Lateral TV broadcast. I'm your host, Cole, and we'll leave it at that. And yeah, we're gonna be trying a new little game here today. It was on my wish list and it was on sale. And I need a little switch up. Probably gonna get back to Diablo later on tonight. If this game night ends up following through, then I'll do that after that. So yeah, let's try Against the Storm, shall we?
The world is plagued by the Blight Storm, a vile cycle of destruction ravaging everything in its path. The only safe haven is the smoldering city where the mysterious scorched queen...
My response was the U.S. government will do what we ask it to do. We should have this confidence in ourselves as someone.
and acquiring valuable resources for the crown. Your goal is to help rebuild the smoldering city and secure the future of the Queen's subjects.
The woodcutters camp. Oh, you don't say. I should do that?
Somalis. We live in this country. We are taxpayers in this country. This country is one where one of your daughters sits in Congress. While I'm in Congress, no one would take Somalia C. The United States will not back others to rob us, so do not lose sleep over that, oh Minnesotans. The lady you sent to Congress is on this, and she is as cognizant of this interest as you are. I'd like to tell President Hassan Sheikh that we are impressed with the work we've done. We've made it known to those living in Somalia and other places that, in spite of the many challenges we face as Somalis, we are nonetheless confident people who believe in their country and will not allow it to be endangered. Thus, I want to congratulate the Somalis in Minnesota, everyone how united you are. You all stood by our president because he needs our solidarity. Somalia belongs to all Somalis. Somalia is one. We are brothers and sisters, and our land will not be balkanized. Our lands were taken from us before, and God willing, we may one day seek them, but what we have now will not be balkanized. I thank you all for how you always welcome me and honor me. May the Lord honor you. Peace and blessings of God be with you. It feels like she's pandering to her heavy Somali voter base in MN5. Yeah, I guess, but it's just kind of weird. It feels like if I have someone in Congress, I want their interest to be with America, not another country, I guess. I don't know, it seems weird. Fuck you. Hey, Welshie the Fly, thanks for stepping. Fuck you. No, I really mean it. Fuck you and go to hell. We will never be able to coexist with these progressive lunatics. You're destroying every good memory we have. Once the pendulum swings back, I hope you suffer twice as much as we do. With Greenwald, the first thing you should do is give him 5 minutes to get all of his. You are too young. You just learned about Pollock's Adams. This is a good one. 2015. This happened. 2020 plus.
Hey, buddy.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking at. Alright, this is 2020 plus, this is bad, and I guess this is good?
Previous building left. Hey, pal. Oh, fuck me. It's a Batman. Why you gotta be like that, bro? Oh, those are balls. Recipes, orders, trade routes. Hold shift while assigning workers to fill all empty slots in a building. Hold shift while
The final
empty
scene
all
of
slots.
Arkham Batman. Uh-oh.
Okay, we're gonna have
Joker used to be real good at hurting people with words. But you, well, even when you're evil, you're still too good. You had a good run, Bruce. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, clean up the streets, causing long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew.
This is an Arkham Batman, though? Is Arkham like the name of a game, or what?
After all we've been through.
Or is it like a timeline, or?
Bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end, huh, Bats?
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost.
Go, buddy.
But you always gotta end on
It's Suicide
your best
Squad.
joke.
Pretty sure Batman is the evil one. I feel like his helmet, shouldn't his helmet be bulletproof? Isn't that kind of weird?
Since when was Harley Quinn the boss of the Suicide Squad? Like, what? Alright, cool.
I don't know. Before we talk about any music, I think I have to read my messages to see what the fuck. Jesus. Quick summary of last night. Well, I don't know if I can watch anything without seeing what people don't want me to talk about.
Well,
Oh shit, yeah, no, I can't. I gotta read my message first. We're on a wave through here.
Aren't you risking getting caught by posting? Here, you want proof? Here's my tattoo. If anybody doubts, check the website and call the FBI Pittsburgh if you want.
This is Chad Howard.
Okay, bro, we get it. You're wanted by the
Is this the guy that we had on Kick or Keep?
FBI. I'm not hiding, FBI. Come get me. They've been after me for 16 years and can't get me. So what I'm doing here is calling them out. I'm mocking them publicly.
And this is his son. At the age of 11 years old, he went missing. Chad's son, Eris, was believed to be kidnapped and transported to one of two island nations in the Middle East, Cyprus or Bahrain.
I wrote parts of Skype. I wrote parts.
Did you say Baron?
Middle East, Cyprus or Bahrain.
Base. Okay.
I wrote parts of Skype. I wrote parts of the communication system on the space station.
Chad Howard is a world-renowned computer
I
programmer.
was a public speaker for Microsoft. I was on TV. I was in newspaper articles. And then I traveled to Bulgaria in September 2009, was arrested.
Here, he discovered that he's wanted by the FBI and Interpol.
I was a very public figure. I had a very successful career until the FBI absolutely destroyed it. I was the American Taliban when I was in Bulgarian prison. They nicknamed me the Taliban because when I explained to them what I was in for, they didn't believe it. No matter how many times we told them, they absolutely would not believe it. An extradition failed from here for the same reason it did in Bulgaria. The FBI has no evidence whatsoever because it never happened.
So he traveled to this tiny island nation where he's been living ever since. Chad needed to prove to the world that he did not kidnap his own son. He turned to TikTok and has been using the app as a platform to tell his story.
16 years ago this week, my son went missing. Thing is, he was never missing, and they always knew where he was.
His account has received widespread recognition from some of TikTok's largest creators.
Maybe the wildest story on all of TikTok.
According to Chad, in 2011, he got critically ill, life-threatening.
3 nights ago, I had 6 convulsions in the middle of the night. What the doctors told me in the new labs is I'm in a race to find out which kills me first. Sepsis, kidney infection, kidney failure, heart attack, or stroke.
It's some vague illness that requires a specialist to diagnose and treat.
Had to revive me at the hospital twice already. They're surprised how I'm still alive as it is. They don't know. And beyond that, I need a lot more diagnostics. We don't even know what I need beyond that. Most urgently, I need electroshock radiotripsy.
The type of specialist that isn't available on the island nation he's trapped on.
The doctors have said you need to not fly very far, even in an air ambulance. You need to go somewhere close. I'm painfully dying here. I need help. I'm begging anybody. This is a cover-up.
If he travels for outside medical help, he'll be detained by Interpol like he was in Bulgaria and sent back to the US on a flight that he says will kill him.
What can I do?
All of this is why Chad Howard has received over 121 million views and is known as the TikTok fugitive.
I'm Alex, and I'm not missing.
Wait, Alex? I thought his name was Eris.
I'm Alex,
Did he change his name? How do we even know this is the same guy?
and I'm not missing.
This man is dying because of a crime that he never committed. The victim, his son, even said that it never happened. Originally, I thought, if only...
I don't know why. I just like this guy's face. Anybody else feeling this? Curly hair, the blue eyes, the strong eyebrows. Normally I don't like the mustache thing. I don't know why. There's aesthetically, it's working. It's doing a lot of... Damn.
Only the FBI knew. Here's a man that slipped through a bureaucratic
Even the nose ring.
No,
I'll
not a
let
fan.
it slide.
loophole
It's the Jufro? Is it?
and is dying because of it. If media attention
Alright,
could
so
help
what's going
open
on
up
here?
some doors to eventually save this man's life, why wouldn't I tell his story? So, I started talking to Chad before this channel even existed. I've been interviewing this international fugitive on and off for over a year. I've been putting together a timeline with Mia, getting to know Chad's helpers, being knee-deep in court documents, tracking down anonymous online accounts, and fact-checking his claims to millions. And after all this time, there may only be one thing I've taken away. The TikTok fugitive is hiding something. Chad is officially charged with the crime of international parental kidnapping. As you may imagine, the root of this charged with the crime of international parental.
Oh, I thought you said intentional. Wait, hold on. Commercial break. Go back like 20 seconds, you missed yourself. Did I? Fuck! Oh my god, and Peace goes in it too! One thing that this guy did a lot that convinced me he was lying. Not convinced, it's a heuristic. Fuck. Not to implicate anybody, but Xena also does this. I feel like you can get a strong indication that somebody is telling a lie when they are incredibly precise and perfectly dodge the meat of whatever question you're asking. Some people are very good at this. An example might be you're trying to ask, you ask your child, did you watch a rated R movie last night that you're not supposed to? And the child's like, last night at 7 o'clock, I went over to Frank's. We played video games for like 2 hours. I think his mom made us dinner at like 11. It was really late, and then we went to sleep. They'll do this thing where, I don't know how to describe it, but they're very good at like nibbling around the edges and then filling in a lot of detail here. But it'll always be non-central to the question you're asking. And I feel like some people are very good at doing that. I felt like this guy. I feel like I was getting those vibes from this guy, where he seemed very keen to provide a lot of information sometimes, but then when I would ask like very specifically, I was like, hey, what about this thing? It would always be like a pivot or diversion to something else. It's like, what about this thing though? This thing, yeah.
Chad is officially charged with the crime of international parental kidnapping. As you may imagine, the root of this is a custody dispute. A few years ago, Chad's missing son, Eris, who now goes by Alex, did a media blitz.
Well, it's a custody battle that didn't go too well.
Wait, how the fuck did we miss this? What?
A 25-year-old who's still in the missing person database is trying his best to clear his name and his father's name.
25-year-old Eris Howard is
Oh yeah, shit, we didn't even do the commercial break, folks. Went on the line. Somebody sent me this one, just
Yes, that's exactly what he does. I mean, and that's exactly become the MAGA mindset. And it essentially goes like this, as you see sort of from the grassroots up. And it is, we need a disruptor. We need someone who's going to burn it all down. We need somebody who doesn't play by the normal rules of politics. We need somebody who's going to break things. And then when they elect a disruptor who tears things down, who doesn't play by the normal rules of politics and breaks things, then MAGA says, why aren't you treating him like every other politician? And it's this double game that's constantly played. And there's a series. And another one is, we are entitled to break the rules. We are entitled to engage in behavior that is threatening, that sometimes veers into violence, bullying, intimidation. And then if you hold us accountable for that, we're going to respond by threatening more bullying and intimidation and accuse you of being destabilizing. And this is again the kind of game that's played, and always the rules apply to you, and never the rules apply to them. And this is a dynamic we've become incredibly familiar with since 2015. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that everyone has done to oppose Donald Trump is either wise or lawful. I mean, for example, we have seen some wrongdoing that was uncovered at the FBI during the Russia investigation, but the bottom line is that we're always in this sort of asymmetric situation where MAGA grants itself enormous freedom of action and liberation from all norms, but tells you that in response to their breaking of all norms, that you cannot deviate from your standard treatment that you've given politicians for, the last 200 years.
Okay, cute. The fuck is this?
help to be able to travel back to the U.S. Now he and his father can't do so, all because of a custody battle that went too far.
But the now 25-year-old isn't really missing. He's been unable to leave the Caribbean island, St. Kitts, all because of a missing. He's been unable to leave the Caribbean islands.
Why? Am I having a stroke? Why do I feel like everybody is pronouncing everything weird in this video? Everybody. The Caribbean islands? Why? I feel like I'm losing my mind. What the fuck is happening? Am I crazy?
Now 25-year-old isn't really missing. He's been unable to leave the Caribbean island, St. Kitts, all because of a battle between his parents that went wrong.
The FBI spent so much money on this case, but they don't want to quit. Way back when I was like maybe 5 or 6, my parents divorced. Tennessee has jurisdiction. My mother had full custody, and my dad.
What is this accent?
I'd had like visitation, but she kept disobeying the court.
See, it's a custody dispute, doing custody dispute things.
Others say it was a custody battle that shouldn't have gone this far.
Honestly, I don't even really know who's right here. And it doesn't really seem like my place to have an opinion. Everybody knows custody disputes are notoriously terrible and complex. But this is the part of the story that I think Chad wanted me to focus on the most. Or at least the foundation for it.
It's a farce. They know what's going on.
Chad believes that the way things played out, which is in favor of his ex-wife, point to a deeper conspiracy.
And that's what I'm telling you. This is not just a bureaucratic black hole I'm in.
That some powerful outside force, be it the US government, FBI, or CIA, has some ulterior motive.
This has been intentional from day one. They know what the hell they're doing.
That someone or something powerful wants Chad for another reason. He believes that the custody dispute is so dubious that there must be something else going on.
Now, here's the part I can't say too much about.
So, at risk of wasting my time, I tried to entertain that idea, to see this dispute as Chad does.
Chris, the new guy that joined the group, sorry, what was your name again?
Jack.
Jack. New guy that joined the group, Jack. Go ahead and send him all the documents.
But this is a highly unusual case.
This is from a podcast series called Wanted, where Jack Lawrence interviews a defense attorney about Chad's case.
Based upon allegations by the ex-wife, a claim of kidnapping, which seems to be readily shown to be false on its face. So it's interesting you got a U.S. prosecutor to even bring the charges in the first place, let alone then have the appetite to try to go all these steps to extradite the individual. So it's highly unusual on many levels.
August 3rd, 2000. Chad, his now ex-wife, and Alex are all living in Tennessee. Chad gets the news that he won the primary election for his campaign to become a representative in the Tennessee State House. 3 months later, Chad loses the general election by a landslide. The following month, he gets a strange invitation.
December 2000. So my friend, I don't want to reveal his name here, but my friend, let's just call him Harry. That's not his real name, but let's call him Harry. And he was like, hey, you'd like to travel to weird places and stuff, right? They needed somebody to carry a lot of bags. So he invited me to go along to Russia with him.
It's a city called Irkutsk. It's out here in Siberia. Personally, you couldn't pay me to go to Siberia in December, but I'm not Chad. When Chad returned home, he and Alex's mom agreed to separate. So we moved to Europe. 2002, divorce is finalized. 2004, Chad gets hired by Microsoft. And this is where the story really unfolds. Chad's ex-wife, at that moment having custody of Alex, violates court orders and moves to Pennsylvania. 2 hearings are held in Tennessee, and Chad's ex-wife is nowhere to be seen. The judge, holding Alex's mother in contempt of court, gives Chad primary custody. Chad's ex-wife tries to move the custody case out of Tennessee and into Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania says, no. Tennessee has jurisdiction. Fast forward through the trenches of a custody battle. Chad's ex-wife.
I feel like Destiny Pisco blew this story up like months ago. I'm pretty sure it was already a thing way before us. That's the only reason he got on anybody's radar is because this dog shit. Because he was already big on TikTok.
Won't return Alex to him.
So the judge says, okay, no, it's a Tennessee order. It's still in effect. You have to put the child in the plane. And she's literally like, not going to do it. And a judge ordered police to remove him from his mother after summer visitation. and put him on a plane back to Europe where he lived the last time he's in the United States for visitation. I did not kidnap him. I did not run. And then a few weeks later, the same judge turns around and orders me to show up to court for a hearing. I'm like, fuck this shit. You just had him. I'm like, listen, you don't even have jurisdiction. Right? And this is when he declared my son was born in Pennsylvania. Then he's like, well, the child's born in Pennsylvania, so I'm taking jurisdiction. But the child wasn't. We objected to that. And he's like, nope, I say he's born in Pennsylvania. So fuck you.
Alex wasn't born in Pennsylvania, but what I'm hearing is that Pennsylvania knowingly lied, forcefully changed their mind, and took jurisdiction of this case. But Tennessee still says their order is active. So we have 2 custody disputes happening in 2 different states that don't say the same thing. And on January 9th, 2007, the Pennsylvania court warns Chad, agree to return Alex in the next 14 days, or Pennsylvania will issue a bench warrant. Over time, this escalates to a secret closed-door hearing to indict Chad at the federal level.
And then when they put me in Interpol, I didn't know. It was done in a secret closed-door hearing. It was done in a grand...
Wait, what the fuck? Another quick break. Pokemon is leaving Twitch? Is she done streaming? Is she going to another platform? Is she going to stream on YouTube? Or is this a meme? Or what is this? YouTube link in bio, but Twitch isn't. Oh shit. Is she just gonna stop streaming completely? I mean stop streaming completely on Twitch and then just like what, go to you? Holy shit, wait, what the fuck? What's happening? Host awaiting moderator approval. For you, Metal Gear Archive. Our numbers have been extremely low. It's well considering our fame. Oh my god. Are these lame? Would these be okay to wear outside? Hold on, I will buy every single one of these shirts. From 25th of December of last year. Guys, if you do web design, I think one of the unspoken rules, one of the most annoying things ever is when you make things that when you hover over them, it highlights shit, and it does, but it's not actually a link. Why do you guys do this sometimes? Why would you ever do this? My god. Lycan and Jacob have a fight. What are they arguing over? Can you kill wounded enemies? Are you allowed to kill wounded soldiers? The answer must be yes. Unless you're, unless they've, like, formally given up. Israel's.
Well, myself, I wouldn't do this so soon.
Oh no.
But it's going to be an easy one. One, perfidy. You are not allowed to...
wait. The only thing I want to see is just like be something for international law or whatever.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Yeah,
Sure.
it has to be a real source. It can't just be a dictionary.
No,
or
I
whatever.
fucking... No, you listen to me, and then you research it, and then you... If
No,
I'm right,
you're not. Hold on, stop. We're
Right.
not doing this again. Listen, this has got to be an easy yes or no question.
Okay, sure. There you go. There's one. You cannot dress as medical personnel. That's the first thing. Do you hit now? I'll get you the answer, the source for whether or not you can kill an enemy combatant before they surrender. And the answer is, while I look it up, they do not have to formally surrender. If the enemy combatant is sitting there with a gun, it doesn't matter.
Where are
if
you
their leg's
getting what
going
you're
off.
just saying right now? Where
Well,
is this
hold
coming
on. No, I'm talking to you, and I'm going to get you the link. Okay. So, yeah. Am I mistaken, or like 2 years ago, were you not really bitching about people going source, and not just having conversations? I'm pretty sure after the Tim Pool thing, you bitched about that.
Yeah, but now it's different because for this particular thing, there's like people just say lots of stuff, but then like every time I go and check the source, it's like way different source, and especially when it's like a fact of the matter question, it's just like this should be like an easy fact of the matter. Like, is it a
Yeah?
Like,
No,
what
it is.
international-
It is.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. Yeah. But while I'm looking it up to get you the link, they do not have to formally surrender if they're still engaged in hostile
Like
actions.
right now,
like
I don't know
fire
why you're
and-
telling me this. Just show me the. Just show
No,
it to me.
because I want to make the fucking point.
Okay.
I need to make it explicitly, because then I get fucking torn apart on Reddit, and there isn't a thing of me clearly doing it, because I have to just stop speaking and go find the source, and then something else gets brought up, or someone else jumps in, and then I don't get to fucking make the point, and then it sounds like Lycan was incoherent and didn't say shit, or he said stupid shit, or was proven wrong.
Gotcha.
So, you do not have to formally surrender. If you're walking through a battlefield or wherever, it doesn't have to be in a hospital. If there's just a wounded person and they are not engaged in hostilities, and they're not a threat, you can't pop a cap in their ass. You can't. They're protected. They do not have to formally say or signal that they are surrendering. You just can't kill them. That should be the most uncontroversial thing I've ever said on stream.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, so if there's 100 enemy soldiers and like 50 of them are injured or whatever, and they're just like making their way back to their platoon, you just have to let them walk back to their people. You can't blow them up or whatever if they haven't surrendered.
A retreating army is treated differently. My understanding is that an army in retreat is not surrendered, so they are still a viable target. That's a little different, and adds a little more nuance to the situation. So like, there's a retreating army and they have wounded. I don't think they get sudden special protection just because they have wounded. Boom.
Okay, so at least according to this set of rules, so it looks like if the person is either surrendered or if the person is injured so much so that they can't participate in
threat.
combat anymore, then you're not, then at least as far as Israel's rules go, you're not supposed to target the person.
Would you say Lycan was right?
Well, the cease to pose any threat, that means that if a person is like shot in the arm and is hiding somewhere, you could shoot and kill this person, right?
If they're unarmed, no, you can't.
Okay,
If
I
they're
don't
holding
see
a weapon,
anything
they're
where
still an
I
enemy.
don't- wait,
My understanding is
wait,
if they are holding a... Well, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, everything has
No.
to be explicitly said.
I know, I just like a source for everything, but go ahead, you're about to give me your personal opinion on it. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. If they are still holding a weapon, they are considered a threat, and you can shoot them. Do you disagree with that?
I don't know if you need to be holding a weapon to be considered a threat. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's like a factor or
Oh,
not.
you know what? Let's see if we can find this information together.
Sure.
No, hold on, wait. I'm sorry. I didn't even say that. I am giving an example of what I would say is the situation. So I wasn't saying that that's the only way you could be considered a threat. I'm saying if we're talking about someone immobilized, like in the case of what we're talking about now, which is a fucking New York Post article someone linked. So I'm waiting for more information before I understand of how true this is. But that one of the people that was there was receiving medical treatment, and that all three of them were unarmed. But that's not the case. Like, if they were armed, well then, yeah, you know, I'd say they were justified to shoot them. The only thing they did wrong is perfidy.
That for that particular situation.
Wait, hold on. Dustin25, explain exactly how I post-hoc'd anything. I come in to make a claim, and he's like, well, get me the source. What, do you think that's post-hoc? No, it's I've read this before, and now I'm going to go ahead and say it. And now I'm being asked for the source. So where's the post-hoc?
So then we should be holding Ukraine accountable for the videos we've seen of them rearming drones and dropping grenades on surrendered, pleading, and usually armless, begging soldiers. All of this is enforced selectively.
Yeah, like there's a video of a person like throwing down their arm and looking at the drone and surrendering. I'm pretty sure that they are at that point protected. But someone brought up an example of just drone strikes that are hitting like the wounded, and I'm like, I think it's if you intentionally target the wounded, those no longer actively engaged in combat, that probably is. But if you're is not legal, but if you're striking, and I'm saying probably because I'm making assumptions here, because as far as the, you know, everything up to the decision to drop the drone, I don't know anything about pulling that trigger. But I imagine that if you are raiding a camp, and you're in an attack helicopter, and there are wounded around, and I don't think that there's any requirement for you to stop attacking just because those wounded might get 86.
Okay, I think just a quick overview of the wounded stuff. So it sounds like if somebody is like wounded and they're clearly out of combat and incapable of participating in military operations, they're probably not an okay target. So going through a forest, find some dude who's like tourniqueted above his knee and his lower leg is blown off and he's like fucking crawling through a forest. Probably not okay, maybe, to kill this person. Ordinary.
And the original reason I
people,
came in was explicitly that they do not have to formally surrender.
Well,
they have to be recognized as not a threat.
Yeah, but the formal surrender is probably going to be a way easier cover there, because even people that are wounded could still pose a threat, arguably, unless like half their body is blown off, right? People can sit with guns and shoot and other things as well, but
sure, at that point it becomes case by case. I never made such an explicitly like hardline stance that it was end all be all. This is the only thing you can do with those people. There's no other nuance to consider. Did I?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I'm just trying to find out. I'm just figuring out what the rule is. Also, I don't also know how much of, or if any of these apply for Hamas, if it's like a designated terrorist organization, or if it's like for assassination of like officers or leaders too. I don't know how that works either.
So, as far as international law goes, again, what differences come to Hamas? One, I'm gonna always hold Western or Western allied countries to the standard of we apply this to enemies that do and do not fall under it. Like this is the way that warfare should be conducted. We didn't come to these rules like some 1700s officers or 1700s militaries where it's like, well, you just don't kill officers because that's ungentlemanly, right? Like we established these rules for a reason. So two, though, is that if you
wait, hold on, just real quick on that. When you say we establish these rules for a reason, we do, but it's because we expect everybody to kind of play by them, right?
Right, but I mean, what? So we just become animals if like our enemy acts like animals? I guess we can do whatever evil shit we want to.
So that would be
Sounds
the
good,
literally
brother.
most hyperbolic way of reading it. But I think
Yes,
a
it is.
more
That
actual,
was very
reasonable way
hyperbolic.
of reading it, what probably happens more is that there are probably some things that you always abide by. So you don't capture people and
This
torture,
is
rape
not
them.
my
But there
fucking
might be other
style.
rules that change depending
Let's
upon
go,
if your enemy is
Steve.
uniformed or if your enemy is like a designated like state combatant versus like a terrorist fugitive or something. There might be different sets of rules. In fact, I'm almost positive there are different sets of rules. Like for instance,
Hold on,
I think like Guantanamo Bay, I don't think that you'd be able to hold fuck, I'd have to go look this up. Now I could be saying shit, but I don't think in Guantanamo Bay, I don't think you could hold enemy uniformed combatants there. That's only for ununiformed combatants, and they have a different set of international rules even that applies to them, I believe. Jacob can join if he wants. He's got perms. Wikipedia. Let me look at this.
To what you were so real quick to that point, is my belief that like if we continue to that we should operate the way we expect the enemy to operate, and just because it makes it difficult doesn't mean I think that we should disregard the rules of war just because there might be something that says, well, they're not beholden to them because they're not X, Y, and it's like, well, then what do we establish these rules for?
The rules are generally established for mutual. That's why the rules always exist, because you want every side to play by the rule generally, except for certain egregious like moral failings.
I'd say that you and I maybe have a philosophical difference there. I think that it's perfectly fine for the rules of war to be applied unilaterally because we put them there for a reason. It wasn't just for the hope that other people would do it for us. There's usually some sort of humanitarian standard there.
We could game theory this out. You will agree with me because it is obviously.
We're talking international humanitarian law right now.
We're talking about rules of war.
Yeah.
Let's say that there is a country. I think it's the case that most countries have second strike policy for nuclear weapons, right? Meaning they don't shoot nukes until the other people do,
It
right?
seemed pretty.
I know nothing about nuclear policy.
High fantasy.
I think almost every country, except maybe almost every country, I think has a second strike doctrine when it comes to nuclear weapons. And the reason why is because if everybody has a second strike doctrine, then hopefully nobody first strikes. But if there was a country called Nukistan, and if Nukistan or Nukini decides to start building towards nuclear weapons, and you know that they've avowedly announced, we actually have a first strike nuclear policy. We've got 500 ICBMs, and we're finishing the final touches on all of our warhead assembly line, and we're about to get all these nukes assembled. You might nuke that country first. You might say, well,
I like strategy
fuck you.
too,
Or there might be some other thing that circumvents international law, or not circumvents, but like just works in opposition to, because of the exceptionalness of that circumstance, because they're not going to play by any of those rules. I think rules only work when all the sides kind of agree to them, with the carve out for obvious.
Bro, I need to be able to zoom out and get like the fucking
like there's
big
probably
picture.
never going to be a time where you want your soldiers like mass raping
if that's
villages.
not an option to begin with, but it is an option later.
So something that keeps popping into my mind is shooting a parachuting combatant, right? Like, even if they're shooting our parachuting combatants, I don't think that gives us the right to shoot theirs.
Okay, let me actually
wait, hold on, before you jump in.
Wait, I didn't think that was actually legal. I might be wrong, but my understanding is that's misattributed, and shooting enemy paratroopers is actually legal.
I was gonna say, yeah, that has to be illegal, right? They're literally fucking
Yes,
jumping to fucking kill you.
Can I actually interrupt and ask Lycan a question really quick?
Wait, no, because I have one bullet point I took. I don't want to say it before we move on, and then absolutely. When it comes to civilian versus military assassinations, you can assassinate military personnel directly involved in coordinating military operations. You cannot assassinate civilian leadership. And it sounds pointless now because... Go ahead.
You're correct, but no member of Hamas is considered military leadership by that definition because they're not lawful combatants, right?
My understanding is that Hamas...
So they all fall under unlawful
Hold on, chill, wait, stop, hold on, wait.
Okay.
Girls, if you're doing this, let Lycan finish your sentence, okay? Let everybody finish your shit, okay?
My understanding is that Hamas is explicitly and recognized by outside bodies as having military and civilian wings. Like, you wouldn't... I don't think that unless they hold two hats and they're like the person in charge of the banking system, but they also are a commander in some brigade, I imagine that obviously doesn't afford them civilian protections. But if they are just a civilian figurehead, then they do have those protections.
Yes, that's correct. If there's a Hamas dog catcher, they are not a legitimate target. However, I want to make a few distinctions because quite a few things have been said incorrect here. I've dropped a source in DGG chat a couple times. I think you're a little rusty on your law of land warfare. Specifically for parachuters, let's start there. You're allowed to shoot paratroopers, so that is people that are using parachutes in order to come onto the battlefield. You're not allowed to shoot pilots who parachute in distress,
Okay.
so long
wait,
as
so it's
they
on-
make no attempts to engage in hostilities and they make no attempt to avoid capture. If they see you about to capture them and then they steer out of the way,
tomorrow
you're
night,
allowed
not
to shoot
tonight?
them. But assuming they don't make any attempt to avoid capture or hostilities, they are protected because they're assumed to be out of combat.
Nope, that was something I was never taught. It was, yeah, a myth that I've always believed. So, yeah, fair.
Also, for wounded personnel, the standard is that they need to be horsed to combat in order to not be legitimate targets. So what that means is they need to be wounded or sick or unconscious in some way that prevents all hostile action. And again, they cannot attempt to escape. If I shoot someone, let's say, and I destroy their dominant arm, so then they're like, oh, I'm going to flee from the battlefield, I'm allowed to double tap them in the back, assuming that my individual rules of engagement don't say otherwise. You're totally legitimate in order to shoot them in the back as they attempt to flee from the battlefield. Like, these rules are not quite as strict as I think a lot of people tend to portray them.
No, but I think I also said that, like, retreating wounded aren't protected. So I imagine, yeah, them just escaping. But I'd be curious, like, if they no longer pose a threat, and this is me asking, I'm not making an argument, I'm asking, if it's like they are disarmed, right? And so they're wounded and they're running away. Is it to prevent them from returning to their unit, or what is the rule there? Like, does the threat not get considered anymore because they started to try to escape?
So,
if they, oh, I'm sorry, real quick, to add in a little more, they haven't been formally taken prisoner. So, like, you've shot them, they've dropped their arms, you can clearly see you fucking shot their hand off or some shit. Obviously, that's crazy, but just for example, you've shot their hand off, they dropped their gun, and now they're running. Can you
Alright.
shoot them?
Hollow Man, I jumped into the Discord
But
and
I understand why some people get this wrong,
said
because the United States has generally
hello
held itself
in the
to stricter rules of
open
engagement
chat.
to the bare minimum required by
And
international
yeah,
law. By international law, people that are attempting to evade capture are always legitimate targets. And also, if someone drops their gun, unless it is for the intention of surrendering, it's just a skill issue, and you're still allowed to shoot them. Like, it's pretty narrow. We essentially, the law is written in such a way that we want to protect everyone that is trying to give a good faith surrender, but not anyone that's trying to return to their unit so they can fight you tomorrow, or that just, again, sucks at fighting and they're losing, but they aren't actually
skill
trying to give up.
issue, you
But
died.
if you come across a wounded person, they're not attempting to flee, but they're clearly wounded and not engaged in hostilities, therefore not posing a threat by any reasonable assessment.
I feel like when we say, I feel like we have to qualify that situation. If you, like, for what I said, like, if you come, I don't actually even know if that's true at all. If you come across a clearly wounded person, if there was somebody, no, actually, I don't think that would ever be true. I'm trying to think of an example of where it would be.
You know, like in movies when you see like it's the battlefield and like it's the end of the battle and there's just some fucking 1600s knight driving a lance through someone's skull, like that kind of execution, my understanding on the battlefield, is illegal. You have to care for the wounded.
If combat's over, that's correct. But I don't understand how this is even technically relevant, right?
Well,
Like, if you're a
actually,
commander,
hold on.
you
I would
could be
even push on.
contributing
Wait,
to the military.
I'd even push on that a little bit. When you say when combat is clearly over, is that ever the case? Like, I know, for instance, in movies, like when the fighting is done, everybody we move to the next scenes. But like in an actual fluid, dynamic, expansive
Yes, but if combat's
battlefield,
over,
is all the shooting done at one point in time? Like, to be hyperbolic, does somebody get on like a megaphone and it's like, okay, we're all done shooting now? Like, does everybody?
No, so when it's unknown, that I don't think that's illegal, but there are issues with when it's clearly known. There's been issues with things such as canoeing, where you're shooting a bullet into an enemy's head after things are pretty clearly done, which creates like a wound that kind of looks like a canoe in their skull, and that is absolutely illegal.
Gotcha. That
Where
makes
the
sense,
exact
yes.
line is hard to tell, but it's kind of like a Loki's wager issue, right? Like there's times where it's wrong and there's times where it's right and there's times where it's unsure, but just because we can't draw a hard line doesn't mean that it's never illegal.
Yeah, that
Here's
makes
one
sense.
someone said.
Have you ever seen the movie Pan's Labyrinth?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
so like that
Yeah, of
would be an
course.
example of what you're saying, where they're walking through at the end of that big fight with the rebel people,
Oh,
and
shit,
they're just
how
like
does that
shooting
work?
everybody that's still alive. Basically, that would be clearly illegal because the fighting is clearly over. The people, by their own military, don't pose a threat anymore, and that's why they're walking through and just executing everybody. Basically, right?
Yes, correct. But my understanding is if you're like in a firefight and something and you're advancing forward and you see someone injured and they may have a gun, you killing them is not super illegal.
But that's because they still might pose a threat. Like, they haven't been clearly assessed to not pose a threat.
But I don't quite understand how this is even specifically relevant, right? Because commanders are able to contribute to the military war effort even if they're injured. If Hitler had 2 broken legs, you'd be able to call in a drone strike on him. But if you have some frontline troops in a hospital with broken legs, you can't call in a drone strike on them.
Well, yes, and then so directly related to this situation that we're talking about, which is the special ops, the 2 issues I have are, one, that I'm seeing. So just being really clear, I'm waiting for more sources to really get the picture. So what I'm saying is, based on what I've been seeing floating around, if one of them was actually there being treated and unarmed, and
I'm going back to Diablo
that person
4.
should not have been killed,
Jump
and
on
that
the
I really
couch,
don't have a problem with the other 2 being killed
I've
if
really
they
been
were
enjoying
military.
it. I just saw that
folks.
game
If they were
was
just political. I have an issue
half
with that.
off, and it was on
But
my
then,
wish list.
Then the second one being perfidy, which
But,
is if
yeah.
they actually wore
I must have
scrubs
been in
to
more of a
disguise
patient
themselves, the Israeli troops, to get in.
Frostpunk
That
sort
is
of mindset
illegal.
when I put that on my
So
wish list.
I don't know I wasn't taught this. I was taught about
it
enemy
was,
uniforms, but I wasn't taught about perfidy
definitely
very well.
not my
But
style.
we wear civilian clothes in operations fairly often. Do you consider that perfidy and a war crime all the time?
My understanding is that's actually like one of those like complex and not completely.
Wait. Hold on. Wait. I'm so sorry. Wait, Jacob, can you say that again? What did you just say?
American forces will sometimes wear civilian clothes when doing operations.
Can you be more
just in
specific?
order
What kind
to-
of operations? Like carrying like an M4 and doing patrol, or?
There are civilians. I'm sorry, if I may, Jacob.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are special ops who their entire time in country, they get the beard, they grow their hair out, and they do not wear a uniform at all. They're wearing jeans, they're wearing t-shirts, they're wearing coats, like normal civilian clothes the entire time.
Or even local Afghan garb.
Yep, while still engaging
And
in
like
military
Are these?
operations.
So is this something
Yes.
where like if this person got caught, are they like burned, or do you actually like own that like that was a special?
No,
forces
they're still
operation?
American troops.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Oh, like Ray Epps. True. Okay. Keep going.
So
Wait, actually, hold on. Wait, no, wait. I got more questions for that. So how do you? Why would it feel like special ops are able to break some rules of war then, or would they?
that's
Well,
why
that,
it's kind of
that's why
contested.
I'm a little confused, and I may have a knowledge gap here, but I think perfidy is used in a more narrow circumstance than what's being explained here, because, yeah, sometimes that does commit regular war crimes, and it's just kind of like a moral gray zone, but like it softens the label. I'm actually not sure on this one,
So
I'm
my issue
not willing
here-
to take any hard stances.
Yeah, if they just dressed like with an Arab garb and went to the hospital, I don't have an issue with that. It's they wore scrubs, and then it's when you're invoking, you're easing the enemy's perception of an enemy combatant that to such a high degree. Like those medical garbs are explicitly called out. So that's what I have an issue with. Not them being dressed like civilians, them being dressed like medical personnel.
The general standard perfidy versus ruses is kind of complicated. As a general rule, ruses are allowed in warfare. Like, for example, I could tell the enemy I have 10,000 tanks when I don't. And similarly, you are allowed to use civilian clothes or enemy uniforms for espionage purposes.
Wait. We should qualify that more too, though. You can tell the enemy you have 10,000 tanks. Could you tell the enemy you have 10,000 civilians?
That's actually an interesting question. I've never seen that stated explicitly or any case law regarding that. I feel like you probably shouldn't be able to because, for example, you can't lie about surrendering, and it feels along the same line.
Sure, yeah.
I agree with that.
Here, well, I'm sorry, hold on. I'm so curious about this now. Hold on one second. So one of the big complaints in Iraq and one of the big complaints in Gaza is the use of using civilian clothes to blend in with civilians. So I'm trying to figure out how do we defend special forces that use it? Because apparently in 2003, at least, the Pentagon was defending the use of civilian clothes by U.S. Special Operations Forces, a tactic used to help them blend in with the local population. What differentiates like a special forces use of this versus a run-of-the-mill terrorist or whatever?
So I think part of the distinction is whether you're fighting a lawful or non-lawful combatant, and I think that was part of what was used there. But I don't know if this is even fully fleshed out. I think this is even still like litigated a little bit.
There's a fair bit of case law on this. One distinction is that you are allowed to engage in espionage. So, for example, lying about being a civilian. But if you get caught, you are not allowed to get normal POW protections. Like, spying is not a war crime, but spies have less protection than
Yeah.
a soldier on a battlefield.
That's what
by
I was going to ask, because
significant-
it seems like all forms of spying would be illegal, but I guess the difference would be that if you get caught pretending to be a civilian, then you get treated like a civilian, meaning you can be executed for treason or...
You can be, summarily executed by like a military tribunal. And then the other general distinction is you're allowed to to use civilian clothes to move into position, but the intent is before undertaking a military action, like a sabotage or lethal force, you're supposed to distinguish yourself. So that could potentially be by, say, putting on an American flag before then, if it's American troops, or some sort of armband, or changing into your uniform, like in a room right before you bust out and, kill the bad guys. So they understand that there's supposed to be this ability to use ruses in warfare, but they try and make the distinction is like, ideally, we don't want anyone that looks like a civilian engaged in combat, because the hope is that in combat, everyone will understand who civilians are and not shoot at them.
So real quick, just because this has been one of the calmest conversations we've ever had around this subject, is it clear what my 3 issues are?
Yeah.
So it sounds like what Lycan was complaining
I agree
about.
with you on the doctor point.
Wait, so it sounds like what Lycan was complaining about was that. Oh yeah, fuck it. Reset. Clearly go.
Just so I understand you. You're saying that there's probably something fucked up about imitating medical personnel, which I kind of understand. It does seem like it's a little step further than just wearing civilian clothes. I don't know if it's quite to the line of imitating enemy combatant uniforms. You also have issues with them possibly killing a civilian person who may not have been directly involved in military actions. And actually, I don't know your third one. If you could restate that for me.
And the third one was that if the person that was receiving treatment was an enemy combatant, but he was unarmed, and the fact that he's in a hospital receiving treatment, that he was not a valid target.
I think someone receiving treatment could be a valid target. I disagree with that.
Hold on. My understanding is if they're not holding a weapon, they're not, but give me a second.
Well, no, because for decision makers, holding a weapon isn't the distinction, right?
Right.
If you're receiving treatment and you're going to be able to like re-engage in combat within like an hour or two, or not engage in combat, but engage in like military activities, it's probably okay to kill you. I don't know if that's actually legal precedent, but like it feels like that should be the case.
Okay. Well, I will say from my end, and this was something interesting when we were chatting in chat before Steve went live, or when he first went live, is something that I thought about was if it is if they're engaged in like planning, like let's say that all 3 of them were military personnel, they were all actively planning, like I feel that those 2 are I'm curious about that. My understanding is that legally the one receiving treatment without arms is not a valid military target.
Even if it's like a military commander person?
Yeah, because they're injured and they're receiving treatment, and they are not engaged in active hostilities.
What if they're still like performing the function of being a commander?
Then
like you don't get to turn off being a member of a military operation if you're like a command role, right? Like someone who's sleeping and they're like a line troop even isn't like immune from being attacked. Same as like how someone who plans operations isn't immune from being attacked when they're sleeping, even if they're not directly at that moment participating. There may be some level of like time scale for like when you're able to contribute again. Like if you're in a coma and they know you're going to wake up in 6 months, they maybe or probably can't kill you then. But if you've got like a broken leg and you're in surgery, you're probably still a valid target at that point because they know you're going to be out within like a day.
Are you saying valid legally or valid by what you think is okay?
Valid legally.
Okay.
And by what I think is okay.
Legal distinction might actually conflict with what we might say the moral distinction is, because it's very well established that unconsciousness renders you an invalid target, even if you might fairly quickly wake up. Like if I knock out someone with grenade, I can't like execute them while they're unconscious. Well, to be clear, unconsciousness but not sleep. But on the flip side, so like a leader getting anesthesia might actually meet that standard. On the other hand, the arm part definitely doesn't matter. In fact, the U.S. military's own training documents says the United States president is a valid, legitimate military target in war.
I have a real quick question. So this is in line with, so if the guy was like knocked out or if he was in surgery and clearly is not a threat at that given moment, if you're like there physically in person, isn't there some sort of standard about needing to like, oh, you can capture this person instead?
No, capture is not always feasible, and you don't always risk your troops for that. Sometimes it's possible, and sometimes you do it. But there are times where like it may be possible to capture someone if you are willing to risk like 10 more lives, where it's not required to do that. You're not obligated to capture some people.
So then
even if it's
doesn't that
theoretically
question,
possible.
yeah, doesn't that question then resort to, did they need to kill him, in the sense of like, could they not have captured him, like in West Bank control? I don't know if it was in like a specific like terrorist controlled area, but like the West Bank is pretty occupied by Israel. It seems somewhat strange, and I'm not saying it's impossible, right? But it seems somewhat strange that they wouldn't be able to get that guy out and not kill him instead, right?
Yeah, so let's look at this from Israel's perspective, right? If they have the capability to reasonably capture a high-level person in Hamas, I feel like they would always choose that because they'd be able to get valuable information out of that. The fact that they killed someone who they realistically could have gotten information out of probably means that it wasn't feasible or within their risk tolerances or any reasonable risk tolerances for them to capture them, right?
I understand what you're saying. Is there something to be said though about, like, let's say you're going in and you're not aware that this person is actually like disabled in some sense, like they're having a medical operation going or doing undone. Like if you're sending the mission in because you think this person could escape from you or could do any number of things or could be a threat to you, and then you in that military operation happen upon him and see, hey, he's like literally in surgery or he's having a medical procedure and he's clearly not the threat that you had established or the risk that you had established in the beginning, would that change any parameters about, okay, well at that moment, because they got updated information, they ought to attempt to capture him instead of kill him?
Conditional stuff like that will usually be discussed and planned for in advance, so I'd assume they already had considered the possibility that they were disabled at that point and it still wasn't considered feasible.
Legally, you aren't allowed to kill someone who is not a legitimate combatant. That said, to be blunt, if I was in that situation, I might roll the dice with the legality. If there's a high-level commander that happened to like be unconscious at the time when we had snuck into enemy territory, I mean,
I just want to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that even true? Haven't we had teams go in and kill high-value targets where, in theory, capture was possible, but it wasn't worth the risk? Like, we've gone into enemy territory and killed people who we theoretically could have captured, and I don't think they were armed as like Americans. And I don't know if there's been any hullabaloo about any of that.
you don't even need to try to capture someone as long as they're a legitimate target for a military.
Oh, okay, you're agreeing with me.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that for people that aren't legitimate targets, like the capture being unfeasible doesn't then.
Oh,
for
not okay.
Leave them there, but obviously that kind of sucks too.
Right, I understand. I'm sorry.
Wait, did I, and this will probably be listed, but am I misunderstanding? I thought it was the case, and this, I don't know a lot about this, so this was just, I thought it was the case that when you're talking about, like, taking prisoners of war, that there are, like, specific carve-outs for, like, if you're literally unable to accommodate the prisoners of war, then you're, like, are you not allowed to kill them at that point? Because releasing them, they go back and serve in combat against you?
There's no
or
shot that you're allowed to kill. I don't think you're obligated to take prisoners, but if you do and you don't have enough housing for them, there's no shot you can.
You're not allowed to.
That would be
You are not allowed to kill prisoners of war.
Correct. There's one weird exception here. As people say, you can't surrender to an airplane. So, for example, brain thing with dropping grenades on people earlier, that actually still applies. If you really accept a surrender, you are allowed to kill them. But on the flip side, if they're in a position where they could become a valid POW, you actually have to give them the same medical care that you would give to your own troops. You have to.
Oh, this sounds so fucking retarded, but I think, I feel like I read about this in regards to, this was so long ago, but like if you're a sniper and you shoot somebody and that person is like trying to surrender, but you're like sniping, I think you were allowed to like shoot and kill them again because they can surrender at, a mile away or, 1,000 yards or whatever, or however far you're, like, assuming you're taking these like really long shots and they're outside of surrender range, you can kill the person, even if they're trying to surrender, say it gets over your scope. I feel like I read
Wait, what if they wave a flag?
Yes, that's correct.
Here's, like, what if they raise a white flag? Does that not like give them any protection?
I don't think so, because my guess would be, I'm just thinking of like how would you break this, is wouldn't that theoretically disable all enemy artillery? Like you would just wave white flags like near the defense and then they can never shell you. And like, oh,
Well, you're not allowed to lie about surrender, right?
Well,
Yeah, but how would you be able to
in
determine
that
if they're
case,
waving a white
the
flag?
equipment is a valid target, even if they're surrendering.
Sure, but like if they're waving a white flag and you're too far to actually take them as a prisoner of war, well, what are they going to do? They're just going to go back. It's not going to walk all the way over to you. They're just going to walk back to their army, right?
Well, I think at that point they have to, like, again, you're not allowed to lie about surrender, so technically they would have to stay in position and wait for you to obtain them, and no one can attack. Like, I'm sorry, some other troops that aren't aware of the surrender, but that person cannot attack you or set up an ambush. It has to be illegal.
But like realistically, is that ever happening? You snipe the person behind enemy lines. You're going to send people in to get him, and when enemy soldiers look at you, you're like, sorry, we're going to go and take one of your people prisoner.
You say behind enemy lines, but like, I don't know. Like when we're thinking about this situation, like someone being sniped, like we're talking about on a base. Like, yeah, I imagine that like the base commander would have to issue surrender, right? At that point, that one individual can't just wave his flag. Like, yeah, in that case, yeah. But when you're just talking about one person being sniped, let's say it's sniper versus sniper, and it's out open field, I would imagine that that individual like can legitimately surrender at that distance. And again, I'm speculating. I'm not making.
In that case, I think it's probably even less likely. For that stuff, like you're not going to be no sniper is going to be exposing their position to go capture some enemy sniper. Right, you're not going to get up and wander over to them and capture them. You're going to spend weeks possibly laying in a position.
Well, I'm
waiting to get your shot.
That
right?
might be, yeah, that might be how that person operates, but I'm trying to find what legally they have to do.
I'm not as certain with snipers. I do know for aircraft and stuff like that, they've been or artillery, they've been very clear that you don't have to accept surrender because you can't. You're physical.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is actually out of my depth now, so thank you, Bob.
Wait.
Oh, Destiny, good job at the div.
Wait, also before you go, so just to interrupt up. So, like, if you're in a situation where you're like at war and you come across a group of enemy soldiers, you fight, and then a few of them surrender, and then you take them prisoner as you continue your operation. If some sort of circumstances were to come up where you would no longer, it is not feasible anymore for you to keep hold of these prisoners, you would have to let them go in that circumstance, or like, are you, that's kind of like what I'm asking, right? Like if you are no longer capable of keeping these people prisoner, releasing them means that they get to go on and they will become combatants again, versus killing them. It's against the law to kill them in those circumstances.
When you say release, do you mean leave them like handcuffed, or do you mean like cut them loose and let them wander off however they want?
Either, since I assume that there's a distinction.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a distinction. You don't have to leave them like, you don't have to take like plastic cuffs off them or anything, but yeah, you leave them there, you can't kill them.
Okay, so you do have to leave them even if there's quite strong possibility or even extreme likelihood that they'll be rescued by allied forces and then just become a soldier the next day. Or
yeah, so you can't make that assumption because they've surrendered, and it sounds like they've followed all the rules of surrender up to that point, so you aren't allowed to murder them or kill them.
So real quick, just to summarize, I don't think it's all about. Aside from the parachuting thing, which I was explicitly wrong on, or I'd say 50-50, right? Because there are
Which thing did you say you were explicitly wrong on?
The parachuting. I thought all people parachuting were protected. It's parachuters or paratroopers or not.
I mean, to be fair, that wasn't like a strong claim you made, but
yeah.
I've heard that same thing too. And that might have even been in Saving Private Ryan where they were doing that, and people were saying that it was bad, but I think those people were falling out of planes. Oh, I've heard. I've heard war people from, it was either World War II, it might have been World War II, where they talk about how fucked up it was, but sometimes after they would down enemy planes, they would come back around and they would also try to shoot and kill the parachuting people sometimes. But then other people said that they caught you doing that, like the other pilots would hate the fuck out of you. I'd heard like weird shit about that. But yeah, it obviously clearly wouldn't apply to paratroopers, but parachuting people who are escaping a down plane. Yeah.
There's a lot of weird lore like that about like hollow points and white phosphorus too.
Yeah. Wait. Why aren't we allowed to use chemical weapons? What is the rationale?
We are allowed to use chemical weapons. Well, kind of. You're allowed to use incendiary weapons. Like, you can't use mustard gas, but like white phosphorus allowed.
Sure, but like why? What is the rationale behind that?
because it's cruel.
So
and,
you don't want to use stuff that will cause more suffering than is necessary, right? If you use it and it provides strategic or tactical advantage, and it happens to cause suffering, that's fine. But if it causes more suffering than is necessary for something else you could be doing, you can't do it.
Then how do you?
And most
Well, then
chemical
what's
weapons
the?
fall under
How do you justify like fragmentation grenades or mines and stuff like that?
It's
because they fill a niche that couldn't be filled otherwise, right? They don't cause like extreme suffering.
There's a lot of just specific rules that are half justifiable. For example, blinding weapons are explicitly prohibited, despite the fact that arguably, especially if you're from the developed world, you probably want to rather be blind and reflect your nice military medical attention than get shot to death. The chemical warfare stuff is pretty much exclusively like World War I. It was just such a shit fest with people like being melted from the inside by mustard gas. They said they didn't want to do that. And the reason why the ban is so expansive is because when a cloud of poison gas is coming towards you, you don't know, oh, is that just tear gas or is that actually something like so they just ban it in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird ones. They tried to ban shotguns and stuff too.
Yeah, that one didn't go through, but it was attempted.
Yeah, and I think they're. Oh, was it the Hague conventions that like have some weird laws in them that we don't actually follow, like expanding ammo and stuff, which is just kind of stupid because people didn't like it at the time, but it's like kind of irrelevant. I think that's been the Hague, but I might be wrong.
There's a variety of optional protocols. We signed on a handful of them. Like there's a handful, but not all of them. I think there's one on mines that we explicitly didn't either mines or cluster movement that
Wasn't there something at
Wait, did I say
about-
that wrong? How do you pronounce that?
Is it
Have I been saying this wrong? Is it not Hague?
I think it's might be Hague.
Okay, I am saying it right.
Are you sure? Hague? Hague?
I don't know. Chat's making fun of
Enough people made fun of you for saying Hague, so I'm saying Hague. I'm gonna guess Hague.
Hague. I don't know. But wasn't there something at one point about 50 caliber ammo? Like some regulations around it?
No, that's just private news
that's
network
not a thing.
stuff. You're not allowed to use it on personnel. It's because it's too strong. It's dumb. That has no basis in law.
Yeah, no, I can't. Under Geneva Convention, all that shit, 50 caliber is legal. So I don't know where, like, that came from. Just a myth. Okay.
Well, of course, because like tanks and planes have like their own guns too, right?
Oh no, it didn't make sense because we have sniper rifles with 50 cal. We have 50 cal machine guns.
To steelman that, it's wrong, but I think the argument for why bigger stuff is okay is because it's not anti-personnel, it's anti-material at that point.
Yeah, but I'm sure people could still shoot it at personnel, right?
Yeah, of course. It's silly, but I'm giving the steelman of why someone might say that.
I think I had a combat instructor say something like, "You hit this first, and then you can hit them." But
yeah.
Anyway, I just want to summarize, just so I can point to this moment. Was there anything I was explicitly wrong about, like to a great degree, that wasn't just some nuanced discussion?
I think your perfidy stuff is questionable, but I don't have the basis to be able to fully challenge it. And I may be wrong, but in chat your claim about them being armed, it seems like that's moved a lot for like military versus civilian. Your claim about the civilian commander is probably fair, but the line for what constitutes a civilian commander in Hamas is probably kind of gray and probably pushed by Hamas in a certain direction, so I'd be careful there as well. But I do agree with you on the base principle.
Yeah, just that if it is an explicitly, civilian figurehead, that's an illegal assassination. If it is a military commander, that's a legal assassination.
Right.
Yeah.
And then my other point is that if the person is unarmed receiving treatment, that you can't kill them.
I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true, but I don't have a basis. I was enlisted. I don't know enough to say anything more.
It gets very complicated, I think, in a specific instance. Arguably, we might want to discourage sending in people to shoot people in hospitals because of the obvious danger to like unprotected personnel in locations, but it's a gray area.
Because even if my understanding of, and this is going off of the international humanitarian law sources I linked to Steven, and I don't know if we were talking the order combat thing we were talking about, but again, like if that person, they don't have to be in a hospital receiving treatment. Like that could be a wounded person sitting on a stretcher, like on a base, like in a command center, and you your troops run in there, you can't shoot that dude if he's assessed not a threat.
Well, let's.
In that case, you probably are
And
able to capture them.
Yes, and to be clear, I'm not saying that like in the heat of combat, the guy isn't going to get whacked. I'm just saying that if the person makes that assessment, then yeah, they can't do that.
Well, let's use like an extreme example and then kind of assess where the rule might be. Imagine that I have someone that is receiving treatment for a blister right on their foot, like because their socks were wet, right? Could we reasonably say that they should be protected from combat and that I should consider them a non-threat if they're with their medic and their medic is putting some moleskin on a blister? I don't think so.
Okay, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt. I have to go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking.
Text me later.
I'd say yeah. Like if they're one's a medic, so you can't fucking kill them, right? Intentionally. The other is a wounded individual. I don't think there are specifications in the Geneva Conventions about the types of wounds, like
there is. It's horse to combat, so they have to be completely combat non-functional. And let's even look at this from the opposite side. Let's say it's you have that blister, and then like the Taliban have overrun your base and then they're just like killing everyone, and there's an M4 like slightly further than arm's reach away. Are you just gonna stay there and just be like, oh, I'm a wounded personnel, good luck with this fight, guys? Or are you gonna immediately reach over for the weapon?
No, I'm not gonna begrudge someone coming in, seeing that, and 86ing that guy. No. But I'd say at that point it could have been like, if you were talking about treating that kind of wound, then it's like, well, I mean, you're not like clearly injured, so again, not going to begrudge the soldier for popping you at that point.
Well, it's not even a mistake though. It's like, again, speaking of my personal experience, there's a base invasion while I'm getting treated for a blister, I'm gonna immediately start fighting, and that's not meaningfully gonna stop me from like being combat effective, right? When I'm trying to
No, right. But what I'm saying is, I'm saying that from the perspective of the person invading the base, I'm saying that if it's not clear to them that you are injured and undergoing medical treatment, my understanding is by Geneva Convention, if you are undergoing treatment, it doesn't specify, like, when you're talking about order combat, you're talking about, like, engaged in combat, or sorry, that you are disengaged, like, that you are not fighting. So if you're sitting in the hospital wing, like, just say they walk into the fucking hospital wing, right, and there are 6 people with guns and 3 people without guns, it doesn't matter what your fucking injuries are. You can kill the people with guns, you can't kill the people without guns, because the ones with guns have lost their protective status as injured combatants, right?
No, I strongly disagree. The distinction, and admittedly we'll need to look at some case law here, but is on the extent of injuries, right? Because injuries are common all the time, and you may or may not have gotten this from some of your instructors, but sometimes when you actually get done in the battlefield, they'll say, hey, you should go pat down your guys to see if they might actually have a bullet wound, like a fragment wound that they didn't even see. So if we're at the point where in active military practice we're saying, okay, yeah, check your guys for bullet wounds if they don't realize it and they've been fighting for a long time. It also simultaneously doesn't make sense from the international law perspective to say, okay, well, if someone has part of their finger cut off, a target, like the standard is unable to fight or surrender.
No, wait, hold on. You might be right about this. Give me 1 second. And I gotta go for a meeting. 1 second. In the context of international humanitarian law, the extent of injuries does play a role in determining whether an individual can be lawfully attacked. The key principle here is that of hors de combat, which refers to individuals who are no longer participating in hostilities due to surrender, detention, or incapacitation by wounds or sickness. If a combatant is severely injured to the extent that they no longer are capable of fighting, they are considered hors de combat and must not be attacked. The principle is fundamental. The law is blah, 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 blah. So what my thing is then here, what my contention has been is that in a hospital, unarmed, like, this isn't a base, this is a civilian hospital, I think it becomes pretty clear that this is not a combatant that can be attacked.
I partly agree. This is kind of people that maybe play really close to, like, the age of consent. If you think someone is 16 years and 1 day old, and it turns out they're, like, 15.9 years old, I mean, kind of your own fault if you end up on the wrong side of that line. And arguably, if we're talking about troops that are not engaged in combat and they're just doing hospital raids, I think it's reasonable to say that they're fucking around.
And then I will say also real quick before I go that with regards to the dressing of civilian clothing, I wouldn't be fucking shouting about perfidy if they are not civilian clothing, rather, to be very specific, medical garb. If they just did that and captured him, I don't give a shit. Is it technically illegal? Yes. Do I give a shit though at that point? No. Like, they fucking went and they dressed like that, and I am sure that I would be looking at it the same way if Americans were doing it to a snapping crowd. I'd be fine with that. But in the hospital setting, one of them being injured, don't like that, and then with the medical guard to, kill them, yeah, not a fan of that. So, but that's all. I gotta hop. But thank you for the good chat, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Bye.
Any last thoughts before I get in? Oh,
Were you talking to me? Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to mention any of this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to check. All right. Thanks very much.
Wait, what do you mean? Hold on. You disagree with me on all sorts of shit in chat. I feel like I've almost permitted you like 20 times. Where are the disagreements at now?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to do more than
Give me one of them. Wait, you can chat ID Soldier.
I wrote this up already. All right. So your take on food insecurity, where you kind of walked it back a little bit, but still not a lot, were off. So talking about like Gaza and how they're not starving there because there's a lot of obesity. And to be clear, I don't want this to get too enmeshed in like Israel-Palestine frame, but actually just looking at this in terms of like food and developmental economics.
Also, to be clear, the only evidence that they're not starving isn't that there's a decent number of obesity.
Yeah, well, I understand, but I still think it's kind of misinformed. And also, I think when we talk about this, in many issues, you're very careful about talking about things in a very intelligent and nuanced way. And I would also like to see us do this. So, when we're looking at food insecurity...
Wait, real quick, before you do this. Do you know what my initial position was on that?
Your initial position, which you expressed very vigorously, I didn't write down a quote from you, but is essentially saying that there's not a starvation crisis in Gaza, and that people using the words like starvation were like overselling that.
Yeah, I don't like the word. I don't like when starvation and food insecurity get mixed. I don't like the phrase food insecurity because I think it's very unclear what exactly you're communicating. And in the United States, I've watched this get communicated poorly over and over again, and I see the impact it has on what people think when they think of food insecurity, and I think it leads to bad understandings of what's actually going on.
I actually agree, and that's part of my point. So maybe as kind of a broad element is like there's lots of also issues that come from this, like the lack of calories, of course, is a big one, which can lead to starvation. And specifically, there's a few medical terms called stunting, which is basically too small. Wasting, which is a very low body fat. You can often see that. That's like the tiny arms, or
bloated belly,
ribs, whatever. Yeah. But you also have a few other pretty severe ones. For example, vitamin A deficiency leads to somewhere between 250,000 children a year becoming blind, and actually about half of them die. And also lots of other micronutrient issues come up. Exposure to parasites or bacterial illnesses like cholera are consistently issues kind of along these lines as well. When it comes to Gaza,
what are those two things? Why would you? What does that have to do with anything? Are you?
Well, if you're looking at water safety,
sure, that's a separate topic than food insecurity, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Parasites may or may not, depending on the. Gaza is actually kind of a weird condition. If you look at the information, most years they actually do better than their regional standards. And then, so I'm looking at some data from 2000 to 2020. Stunting prevalence was like approximately 9% for Gaza or single Palestine in general, but 26 in the region. Now 9% is still bad.
What does region mean?
Good question.
Region is in like all of Israel, or all of the Middle East, or like North Africa, the Middle East, or the greater Middle East region, or... Link me, throw in chat the link of what you're...
Sure. Alright, I dropped it. It's kind of disorganized, but I pulled a few articles. So one of the studies was grouping Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. Which was, let's see, is that the same one I dropped my figure from? No, but essentially the general MENA area.
Well, what you just said was not, well, that included some pretty fucked up areas.
Yeah. True, although the biggest crisis, I would say, from a starvation point of view is Yemen, and that hadn't happened yet, say, early 2000.
Okay, sure.
And that's good news, and that also kind of contributes, I know you mentioned a few years ago, some other people brought up that Palestinians get a lot of internet cable, which is kind of positively contributing towards this. But the levels are still high relative to, say, the developed world. So, like, people should have essentially a moderate amount of complaint.
Sure. Can you, real quick, can you link what you're talking about when you see it? Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and then, yeah, I'll tag you.
Oh. Okay.
Well, I have the link to the individual articles. I just...
Yeah, that's fine.
And then, actually, so... one kind of contributor that is entirely Hamas's fault, and I'm sure a lot of the people here will appreciate that, is it seems like breastfeeding is comparatively low in Gaza in like early infant nutrition. Like the food insecurity burden seems to go down. So essentially, in your youngest children, like 0 to 2, you tend to have quite a bit of stunting. But then when you look at adults, they tend to start to have fairly high rates of obesity.
Okay.
And then we can't blame that. On the other hand, several of these articles do specifically call out some of the policies.
Well, okay, hold on, wait, real quick. What do we? Okay, wait. Do we have an actual disagreement here? What do we even? I don't need like a whole breakdown on the.
Yeah.
Okay. Gaza. What is the?
So, I think what I would like to see in terms of pushback is rather than saying, "Oh, it's not as bad as Yemen, so let's not use these words," but even ask them a couple of specific questions, like how many people are dying due to this, or how big is the public health emergency. And then similarly, when we're talking about this in the United States, or we're talking about it in any sort of context outside of Palestine, we focus on public health burden, we focus on specific indicators like stunting, wasting, etc. I think that will help improve the conversation in a positive way. And it also doesn't let dipshit like lefties get
Sure,
away
I don't
with it.
necessarily disagree with you, but I don't think that whatever you're talking about is not their desire. I think the people that talk about like mass starvation in Gaza and the diets, the forced diets, and blah blah blah, they're not looking to make a factual proof of the claim. It's just the Israel evil one. I don't think they're going to give a fuck these more accurate measurements. Just like in the United States, when progressives say, 42 million Americans are food insecure and don't know if they're going to get their next meal or whatever. It's not really true. But it plays into the narrative of working poor are literally starving to death. I don't think anybody cares. There's a reason why these terms are used, and it's not because people are trying to be accurate and failing. I think it's because they're just looking for the biggest moral sledgehammer to the swing, which was my complaint.
I agree with you, but I disagree with the way you push back. And it's not just like a policing on your tone, but it's policing it in a way that actually matters because it shows good policy.
Well, sure, but like policy, we're so like if somebody in Israel wanted to argue that I think the people in Gaza are perfectly healthy, which I don't know if any of them could argue that, then I can start arguing on nutritional availability and vitamin deficiency and all of that. We could do that. but nobody on that side, I think, is even making that argument. Instead, it's on the other side, people are saying, like, oh, there's a mass starvation in Gaza. It's either remotely true. And then the comparison, in my opinion, from Gaza to Yemen is disgusting. Because Yemen legitimately seems like it's on the verge of, or currently is in, like, their own little fucking Holodomor, where you got, like, mass people literally starving to death, or who are, like, you know, like you said, stunted, they're not even growing up right, or they're severely vitamin deficient. Such as, not only, yeah, or cholera is like killing people. Like people say, like over and over again, 97% of the water in Gaza is not drinkable. Blah 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 blah. How many people is cholera like a huge problem in the Gaza Strip?
No.
Okay, but like in Yemen, it's like
one, but definitely isn't.
In Yemen, it's either hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions of people are were having these issues. Also, all of my comments here are also like over the past couple months, this might be changing too. Like there might be, for instance, like a starvation possibility in Gaza with everything like upset right now. That could be true, sure. But like prior to this, like it doesn't seem like, again, I think you can make public health claims. That's undeniable that there might be public health issues, or that there almost certainly are public health issues on the Gaza Strip. But that's not what people are claiming. They're saying that it's a whole population that's being starved to death almost, is what they make it sound like. And that's the impression.
Yeah, like Reuters is saying there are indicators that worse as of data.
For sure. Probably worse than as of October 7th, removing that many people who already don't have a great. Yeah, sure, yeah. But like my guess, if you were to poll the average American or even the average world citizen of like what do you think who is experiencing like worse conditions right now, or like what's the difference in condition in like Gaza and Yemen? I feel like most people would probably say they're maybe about the same. And it wouldn't surprise me if in some polls people thought that maybe Gaza was doing worse. That wouldn't surprise me, but there's a stark difference.
I think so. And again, I agree with your point that a lot of people are using this uncarefully or even intentionally badly in order to use hyperbole and get like the moral high ground. Like, oh my god, all these children are starving. But, which is not perfectly accurate, but there is reasonably high levels of children that, so we could, for example, say, oh, let's just stop all the like we intentionally wanted to like exacerbate that. And
well, so like let's even look at that. So you said there is a lot of stunting in the Gaza Strip.
Yes.
In the Gaza Strip, Palestine over 16 hours. Okay, stunting, 10.3% remains the most prevalent form of undernutrition among children 5 years. Or by underweight, disorder, nutrition. Okay. What is stunting in say like let's compare to like a first world country?
Yeah. So
like in the United States, how much? How many children?
Is 3.4. So depending on the year, there's somewhere between 3.
Okay, got it. And then if we were to compare this to say.
Sudan, I'm seeing quick Google 36.
Okay.
Which kind of matches up with like it's a little high compared to the regional average, but yeah, the developing world is kind of not doing so great in some ways.
And Yemen is 86%. So that number in Gaza is bad, right? 10% seems to be way higher than it should be. In the U.S., it's 3.4, which is quite a bit lower, significantly lower. But then in like super ultra mega block places, you know, 36% for Sudan, and what was it? Almost 50% in Yemen. Yeah, I don't know if most people would come away knowing that when you hear over and over and over again, they want to put them on a diet. Didn't you hear them say they were putting them on a diet? They're starved. The food is like it just feels like it's everything's just so hyperbolic. It inhibits people's ability to have like an understanding like even what's happening. Geez, even in Egypt, 20% of children are stunted.
You often see a lot of regional differences, famine, or insecurity, either rural-urban divide, or actually sometimes urban poor are much worse off than like rural poor, like the Bengal family.
Okay.
But the reason I push back on this is I think we should view all these issues. We should throw out this hyperbole bullshit and view it as marginalist, right? But in order to do that, we also need to have the discussion and come on this way. Well, to what extent is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree, but again, I don't think the people using these terms are looking to have like, it's not that they're trying to be truthful and accurate and failing, it's just kind of like talking points.
Yeah. So I'd say it's mostly for the audience. I feel like over half of your Israel-Palestine discussions haven't been really all that good faith with the other person. Do we want to go backwards? Yeah, sure.
Well, no, wait, I didn't mean that. Sorry, fuck. Hold on. Next time, okay?
Okay.
I have to make sure I'm ready for this Greenwald debate. I gotta put these over.
Yeah, no problem. Good luck in the debate. All right.
If you want, you can. Hold on, I'll be back. Chat.
Entitlement theory with Maria Sens. I love Sens as an author, and that is where I read about the eventual time. God, it's just me. Oh, all right. So here's a preview. Destiny and Econoboy discussion on housing was fucking terrible. The idea that it's good if you have to sell because your taxes have gone up too much is obviously dumb. Both in terms of common sense, but also if you look at the literature. So, like, the common sense part is, yeah, it sucks to move, and there's a lot of transaction costs, right? It's like you have about 6%. And then the other part is children, for example, have negative effects from moving too often. So the idea of, like, it's a good problem to have to get priced out of your own neighborhood is not that good. Do I edge or do I win? I would say edge. Gooning seems like it takes a lot down. Actually. Falcom Fin. There's no single solution, which actually kind of sucks. Like California's, was it Prop 13, I think, that raises property tax is kind of obviously retarded. I think as a general principle, it's okay if people at different stages of their life move around. But generally speaking, if someone is still working in the same job, in the same industry, probably try not to price them out of their neighborhood if they made a reasonable purchase at the time that was the purpose of their budget. Well, Dracula, I mean, that kind of sort of is a very broad question, is like, why should someone have a right to be there versus someone else? And one thing, as someone that grew up in like a lower density area, that I think a lot of people don't take into account is a lot of people kind of get shuffled around by economic pressures, including, say, having to move around, or versus like gentrification. There's a variety of reasons why people have to move areas, and they're not necessarily all completely bad or unfair. But I think we should have a reasonable amount of empathy in terms of understanding that has negative impact on people's lives, right? It's like people down the routes, they have friendships, they have a commute they've gotten used to, their children go to school. Front AF, you are fucking retarded. When you link a source claiming it is the single most traumatic event a child can possibly endure, show me where I fucking said single most traumatic event. Well, Falcon Fan, the problem with a greatly appreciated asset is, unless you happen to be in an area where that disproportionately appreciated, you're not better off. Right? If every house doubles the price, then you're still at the same relative area you are, even if the numbers are bigger. Really, the best time for your house to actually pass it is the last house. So that's either you're selling it in order to afford end-of-life care in like an elderly community, or on the flip side, you're giving this massive $250,000, $500,000, $1 million like to your child. Houses aren't useful assets to the majority of your life. All right, new topic, please. Thoughts on the JP? No comment. Still enough housing. Best rope. famous word. Say gobble in the next 12 seconds. And glassing Tehran. I think if they had meaningful command and control on the killing of those 3 U.S. troops, I absolutely think that we should have a disproportionate attack on military assets. I'm a bleeding heart when it comes to civilians, but enemy bad guys that are in the military, fuck it, kill them all. Houses are awful assets for 90% of people. They're dwellings for 100% of people. That's complicated. So if you look at the literature, generally most middle-class people benefit from owning a home versus renting, because it's kind of like a forced savings account. In theory, like everyone will say, oh, well, if you rent and then you put it into like the market, technically you'll be better off, but that doesn't actually represent real people. Oh, and actually, that's another big thing that they missed in that conversation. Most people don't look at net wealth; they look at cash wealth. Only rich people purely care about net wealth. 90% of people are concerned about cash flow. Hey, can I afford next week's bills, or even next week's like vacation to like Thailand or something? When is it okay to cry during ulting? Listen, all right. Sometimes you just need to ult on cooldown. I'm not going to name any specific names of people that have ulted as soon as it comes off cooldown. Logistical. Join a stream to fight Lavloon about gender. I think Lavloon is among the most disgusting, worthless creatures. So I'm not sure I ever want to try to ult.
My god.
Alright, and with that, everyone have a good day. Thanks for your time, guys.
No, nice. But, when you... Alright. Be careful, don't die. Alright. Okay, I have other links open. Active links. Scandal of the FAA has been moving on a slow burn through the courts for a decade, culminating in the... Oh, go over last night's one. I don't know anything about it. I don't know if I got messages from people saying don't do it. It's funny, an undercover Israeli military unit dressed as doctors and women in civilian clothing stealthily entered Ibn Sina Hospital in Janet and assassinated 3 Palestinian young men with silenced firearms. One of them was hospitalized for injuries he sustained 3 weeks ago. A team of Israeli special forces to the science program even seen that specialized doctors this morning. Part of the assassination was 3 hiring members of Hamas. Is there even a thread on what happened last night? Yeah, I want to be very sure. Okay, I believe if she wants closed relation, nice video yesterday.
First, she did. Yeah.
4 messages. This is probably all we're gonna do on this, because I don't think I want to go over hardcore shit on all of this. Because people are getting super mad, so.
Well, I'm just saying, if I didn't first.
She did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I'm just saying, if I didn't hate that person, this would be like, if I hated that person, that would be how I would act.
You think you only fight with people when you hate them?
I think I only fight with people over topics like that if I hate them. Yes.
Over whether or not you're a horrible person?
No.
That brings
over
up
whether or not you
sexual
brought up
assault
that
for fun.
specific thing.
Okay.
And again,
instead of trying to rewrite that event. No, stop talking. Everybody stop talking. You realize that she's trying to rewrite that event. You're excited the time when she's trying to rewrite that event to make it out like I am taking out the event and bringing it to the surface and like intentionally, making a joke out of it for the purpose of like traumatizing her. That's how you're trying to rewrite the event. Yeah, I'm gonna have comments on that.
Okay, I feel like probably if that was happening, and maybe you'll find
Should've
out
just let her do it, and
but
what's
probably
the
when that was
difference?
happening,
That's
I feel like I was saying repeatedly, I disagree. I don't think that's what happened. I don't think he meant it. I don't think he knew about it. That's what
Okay,
he
and
told
she
me,
doesn't
I
accept
believe
that. So when she is doing that, when she's trying to propagate that same message, your advice is just keep it to yourself and send her an idea.
I would have tried to, I would have probably, if I'd done that to somebody and I realized
Okay, you're a bitch.
I would have sent them a DM first.
I don't know what else to say. Okay, and first off, I don't even believe you because I know you like to fight.
I do like to fight.
I would be a bitch too.
But I also hate people.
Why does Disco only ever have Wolfgang's camera? Why does he just call himself Wolfgang? Why does he call himself Wolfgang? What the fuck is Wolfgang? Is it from a video game? Why not
And I can admit that I hate him.
I don't. It's really hard for me to hate people.
All right. Lack of a private apology when she was too upset to get public
first
one.
off,
I think that is telling. But
if you're opening this door,
wanted to ask you live, do you really believe, man, that, for example, electricians are at the bottom of society, LOL? Bottom of society? No. And just in terms of earnings, usually you've got, like, no education, you've got, like, high school, then you've got trades, then you've got your bachelor's, then you've got your, generally, I think, your earnings follow that. I think with PhD.
And you are opening this door, J-Stock. When I
whatever you're
started
about
to look
say,
into this,
I realized.
When I started to look into this, my reaction to looking into it was like reaching an analysis that the thing that she had actually done was worse than what I thought she actually did. So yes, I'm doing this door. But I actually think it. I'll talk about it.
That city was banned or just.
Oh jeez.
Well, it's this again. I'll do this. Oh, he's just trying that. Okay, listen. No more talking about it, okay? Sorry.
Somebody kicked me. I don't know who it was.
Yeah. We'll just move on. Okay, we'll just move on. Well, let's tell you what's coming.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? Now this is like it's a banned topic for a reason.
Okay. I just could have got some for 3 hours. Variant Disco deserve an blame on this. We were pushing Wicked into the explanation for 5 to 10 minutes, which is what we've been bringing up the main topic first. After all, Wicked Supreme explained consistently that he doesn't hate Kelly. I don't understand the logistical hate when GGG was going after him recently, but after the Darius drama, and especially after this, I get it. The gaslighting, dogpiling, attacks afterwards from Logistical, Kelly, Cherry, and Lab on Wicked Supreme was hard to watch. I really hope Kelly, I think you meant to say, I really hope Kelly takes some time off, meaning not watching either. She's in a bad place for 3 weeks now. Edmund, thank you for the
Like, what is wrong with you, Wicked Supreme? You are so fucking fucked in the head. You just don't know how to be a normal person.
Okay, I don't think you can blame me for this, Kelly.
No, I can't blame you for it. Absolutely nobody asked you to go over this.
I'm sorry, they did. I'm sorry, I'm not the one that brought it up. Again, I made a promise to J-Stock.
Absolutely nobody asked you.
I made a
Why
promise to
you believe
J-Stock
or
the first time you told me about this.
absolutely nobody asked. Just because somebody else brought it up contextually, it doesn't mean you need to go into why you do or disbelieve shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You've never asked me for anything. All you've seen is like...
You've already published them publicly.
No, I haven't. There is 100% a lot more than that. And I don't want to litigate it, bro. You've already said that you understand that some of it wasn't consensual, but I got hurt because he's wrong person. Why the fuck are you going over it?
I don't understand how you can put me in this. I have been asked again.
Just about to start to try and like diminish everything.
The conversation has again become on the screen about me and how I feel about
You
it.
brought this up. You tried to do that.
I did
Nobody
not.
put a gun to your head and made you do that.
I absolutely did not. The conversation started with being about Cherry asking whether or not I hated you or something like that.
Yes, but it didn't have to start because
And who brought it there? Who brought it there?
Who did? Nobody asked you.
I'll be clear.
You doubt Kelly and all sexual assault.
Listen, Kelly, first off, this was today, okay?
Anybody ask him? Clarifying? Have you asked him because why? It sounds like how it feels like to you. Nobody cares about that. Anyone asked him why you doubt sexual assault. Nobody knows who did. It related to the first.
She did. Yeah. Because I'm just saying, if I didn't get that.
your opinion? I don't think I have a strong opinion. I don't know. It's hard. I mean, if somebody doesn't want a particular thing discussed, then I think that, I mean, they have the right to request that from the Discord owner. I try to generally enforce that with Kelly, although that's been kind of danced over a little bit, because there are certain aspects of her history that she doesn't want discussed, which I think is fair. I guess it just depends on how it gets brought up then. Because like if Kelly's bringing it up or somebody else is bringing it up, I think this will say as much as he was pushing hard on this, but yeah.
Like Kelly was so easy to attack Wicked, but I think it's because Wicked was talking about it.
Yeah, the just was asking him? I'm not sure. That was acknowledged, never violated by Wicked since. Yeah, I don't know.
He's been attacking for months prior to this. Yeah, but they can fight on non-related stuff, right? I don't know.
The issue also is that, like, once you've made something public and put it into the public discourse, then people are going to kind of talk about it too. And I don't know much. Don't know. What about the rewriting history thing? I mean, if she brings it up, then I think it's fair. That's what if she's bringing it up, like, oh, this happened. Then I think it's fair. But again, I don't know the situation of how any of this is going at all, so. Penalty of days when I slow burn through the course of a decade, culminating in the class action Brigida versus Secretary Pete. Brought by a class who spent years and thousands of dollars in coursework with my aircraft controllers, only to be dismissed by a pass-fail biographical questionnaire with an over 90% fail rate. Implemented without warning after many of them had already taken and passed a skill assessment. Questionnaire awarded points for factors like lowest grade in high school is science, something explicitly admitted by the FAA. Lawsuit with a part-time job at the Bar Pod, a podcast about internet nonsense on the side of hobbies. Hold on. Don't care about this. These conduct loaded tests minimize these non-conduct tests on applicants. By the fact that applicants are trained in required competencies and many non-conduct competencies are important to job success, there's little if any evidence that use of the ATSAT with today's applicants predicts subsequent job performance, therefore less weight should be given to it. The original validation report recommended a cut scope 70. They just use highly qualified band creates additional RNO and gender diversity problems, therefore one band of 70 and higher should be used. There are alternative ways of finding multiple predictors to handle high applicant volume within selection. Just seems like dumb affirmative action shit, basically. Jesus, the whole ass fucking post. My god. When are we getting to the border? Good question, my dude. Thoughts on the UN RWA mass defunding? I hate that whole organization, so fuck them. Wait. Who was tracking this stuff in Yemen? That was the UNHRC, right? UN RWA is only in regards to Palestine, right? I believe the UNRWA exclusively handles Palestinian stuff. Yeah, fuck, I don't know. This shit's stupid. Okay, what is this?
A major crackdown on retail theft. A man is in custody accused of dealing $5 million worth of stolen Nike merchandise. You can see walls of shoes from floor to the ceiling. Eyewitness News reporter Jaysha Patel, she's live in downtown LA with details on this. How bizarre, Jaysha.
Yeah, definitely, Rachel, John, and Leslie. Thousands of pairs of stolen Nike shoes, clothing, prototypes, and accessories were found inside of a warehouse in Hawthorne. And take a look at these incredible photos. You can just see stacks of shoe boxes, display boxes, and even close-ups of some of the shoes that police found. Now, the LAPD says Roy Lee Harvey Jr. was seen delivering the stolen Nike products, and he was booked on suspicion of receiving stolen property and is believed to be responsible for redistributing and reselling the stolen items. The LAPD utilized their Commercial Crimes Division cargo theft and the Organized Retail Crimes Task Force to execute this.
What is Hawthorne? Is this like a neighborhood or city or something, or?
Search warrant over in Hawthorne, and Nike also had its global security director help with the search to find all of these stolen goods. Now, over the past year, we've seen videos and images of brazen retail theft and smash and grabs in broad daylight. And in 2022, research showed theft
LA,
contributed
one
to
street in Chicago.
$112 billion in losses for businesses across the country. California Governor Gavin Newsom invested $267 million in dozens of cities in the state to combat this, and the money went to police and sheriff's departments as well as district attorneys. The LAPD and the sheriff's department were among those departments that got the most money, more than $15 million.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel. And download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV.
This was many, many years ago. Wait, this story that was just uploaded today was many, many years ago? I'm sorry, you had an earlier message, my bad. When I lived in Jersey, we'd steal a lot of this stuff from the back of trucks, and they would store a lot of the boxes in large warehouses like this.
There are so many different coins.
Lucas, the Israeli special forces that executed the mission in the West Bank were Shin Bet agents and police officers and not soldiers. Does the Geneva Convention even apply here? Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, this was probably that video that I was referring to.
The battles include some brutal realities for Richard Peterson.
Normally, nobody, including the Germans, would be shoot anybody in a parachute. It just wasn't done. I mean, there's no challenge with shooting a guy in a parachute, for God's sake. He is, I mean, he's had it. You can't miss. And here I came across
Was
this
bombing Yemen worth the deaths of those 3 soldiers? Which 3 soldiers? What is this guy talking about? Destiny, your unwavering support for Israel has radicalized your audience and has led to deaths of 3 U.S. troops in Syria. You have blood in your hands.
Okay. And the sky was full of bomber chutes. Flak had gotten them, and it was target area. And this was going from parachute to parachute, shooting up guys in parachutes. Oh, this was too much as far as I was concerned, and I didn't want to blow him out. I wanted him to bail. So I was pecking away at it. Then I'd get strikes on him. And he knew I was there, and he knew I was getting strikes. He finally pulled the pin. Ah, you bet your maker, Buster. And I fired. I damn near emptied my guns on this guy. He was mincemeat. And of course, other guys who weren't there were nervous about me shooting the guy. Shoot. They had to be there to know what I was seeing with this guy going there. These guys are helpless of a bomber cruise going down. And I just tore him up. With 800 rounds put together from 6 guns.
Special Operation Forces wear non-standard uniforms. There has been perhaps no one in the DoD legal community who has made a greater contribution to the advancement of the law of war than Colonel W. Hayes Parks, United States Marine Corps. Nowhere was his contribution greater than in Special Operations Forces. His work on Special Operations Forces wear non-standard uniforms proved critical to ongoing operations when Britain will endure as a model and basis for future special operations. Parks of the Special Operations Community. Gary Solis has already written on Hayes' long and illustrious career and his contributions to the law of war. The former staff judge advocate for the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Major General Dan Lewis, has also written critical of his contributions. The wear of civilian clothes and non-standard uniforms by soldiers was not a new development in 2002. However, images of U.S. Green Berets on horseback wearing pecals and various combinations of uniforms and shawl or knees in late 2001 brought the issue back into public view. Some in the media and NGOs would quickly claim this practice violated the law of war and could constitute a war crime. The same debate took place among U.S. judge advocates, including within the Special Operations Forces. Hayes realized that not only did many of those expressing opinions fully understand the law of the issue, on this issue they also did not know facts relevant to the issue, almost everything ever apparently. As a result, Hayes wrote, Special Forces wear non-standard uniforms. Attorneys new to the practice of operational law are often overwhelmed by the pace of operations as well as the sheer amount of information that must be considered when providing advice. Hayes, based on his extensive experience, knew that an opinion based on incomplete facts would surely in the operating paragraph of non-standard uniforms, he relates how the practice's many detractors lacked a factual basis for their opinions. He then provided a detailed description of the units and personnel involved in the issue, the activities in which they were engaged, and their status. As in so many of these articles, Hayes provides a lesson in history as well as the law. He lays out the reasons behind the use of non-standard uniforms and civilian clothing, as well as the historical basis for the wear of non-standard uniforms. His survey includes civil affairs operations in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, operations conducted by the Office of Special Services in the Second World War, and British operations, including those involving Lawrence in the First World War. British archaeologist, army officer, diplomat, and writer, and renowned for his role in the Arab Revolt. Is this the guy who is the Lawrence of Arabia guy? Oh. The breadth and variety of his activities and associations with ability to describe them vividly in writing. Fortunately, this movie made before 1997. Can't be good. Sorry. Maybe when Marvel does the remake, it'll actually be a good movie. It is clear that not only non-standard uniforms, but also many of his other articles and opinions that Hayes did not accept ignorance of facts as an excuse for bad legal advice. Yet judge advocates and others advising on operations often find themselves in a staff overmatch. The legal advisor is often a staff of one or, if lucky, two attorneys. Wow, I'm Vishy. Thanks for giving us up. It is impossible to attend every planning session, observe every operation, and make every meeting. However, the legal advisor must know and understand the mission and the commander's intent to advise soundly. To do this, military legal advisors must integrate into staff organizations and develop relationships so planners and operators proactively involve them in planning. Consistent with Hayes' outlook, I advise new operational lawyers that if you're waiting in your office for the question to come to you, you failed. Oh, is this like a 15-year-old article? How old is this? Oh no, this is only a 3-year-old article. My understanding is, whoops. Who was I talking to? Email? These might be emails I've gotten, I think, from military people. That, like, oftentimes when you're, like, doing strikes and everything, you have, or maybe it was something we read, where you're always trying to coordinate with your legal advisors at the same time to make sure that what you're doing is, like, okay or justifiable or blah, blah, blah. That this is, like, a big thing in modern war. Fuck, I wish I could remember what we were reading or something now, but... Hayes also noted the legal questions required determination of context. In the case of Afghanistan in 2002, Hayes recognized that this type of conflict, and therefore the applicable law, wasn't always clear. Despite resembling counterinsurgency or counterterrorism, the United States largely applied the law applicable to international armed conflicts. Of course, there were exceptions, especially the decision to not recognize captured Taliban and al-Qaeda fighters as prisoners of war. Overall, Hayes resolved to apply both treaty and customary international law applicable to international armed conflicts to operations in Afghanistan, though the facts may not have compelled this conclusion. A point worth bearing in mind when applying Hayes' analysis to future operations. It might have been a podcast, maybe. SOF teams literally have a JAG officer that goes over every op test. Hayes highlighted that many critics of the non-standard uniform policy base their analysis and opinion on the Third Geneva Convention of 1949. They claim, okay, I said that the U.S. is not necessarily a signatory. Okay, are the Geneva Conventions still? Geneva Convention and additional protocol to embody public international law, also known as the humanitarian law of armed conflicts, whose purpose is to provide minimum protections, standards of human treatment, and fundamental guarantees of respect. Geneva Convention series of treaties on the civilians versus wars and soldiers. The first convention was initiated with the International Red Cross Crescent. The treaty meant to remove sick soldiers from wartime. The Swiss government would uphold the conventions of Geneva 2 years later. A similar agreement to protect shipwrecked soldiers was produced in 1994. Two new conventions were added, and Geneva conventions ended in October 1950. Ratification grew steadily through the decade. 74 states ratified conventions during the 1950s. 48 states did so under the 1960s. 20 states, while the 1949 Geneva Conventions have been universally ratified, the additional protocols have not. At present, 168 states are party to Additional Protocol 1, 164 states to Additional Protocol 2. This still places the 1977 Additional Protocols among the most widely accepted legal instruments in the world. Okay. So, do the Geneva Conventions stand on their own, or were they incorporated under something different? So, like the Rome Statute. Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court is the treaty that established the International Criminal Court. It was adopted as a diplomatic Italy and of course blah. There's 4 cores of its crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. How do you pronounce? Is it Hague? Is it
Hague?
Some Geneva Convention stuff is part of the crimes. Is that because some of these things? Oh wait, crimes against humanity. Genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes. So war crimes is essentially of the Geneva Convention. So basically, everybody is signed on to these things, right? These are the protocols. Signing nations agree to further restrictions on persons, according to conventions, and clarifying that the terms used in the conventions was introduced. Finally, new rules regarding the treatment of the deceased cultural artifacts and dangerous targets, such as dams and nuclear installations, were produced. Protocol 2. In this protocol, fundamentally, 2 main treatments were clarified. Who hasn't ratified additional protocols? Geneva Convention. Parties to Geneva Convention 1 through 4 and Protocols 1 through 5. So the U.S. is, we've agreed to Part 3, and Geneva Convention 1 through 4. This is orange one is Israel, and the green one is Palestine, and the blue one is Lebanon. I'm guessing that's what these little bubbles mean. Okay, so for Geneva Convention stuff, I'm guessing the green one is Palestine, has signed on to everything. Israel has done the same ones as the U.S., they're just not Protocol 1 and Protocol 2. Why don't all these people, Africans and Asians, why don't they like Protocol 3? Interesting. And those are the only ones that we saw. That's the only one that we in Israel signed, Protocol 3. Protocol 3. Is an amendment protocol to Geneva ready to the option of additional distinctive under this protocol, the protective sign of the red crystal may be displayed by medical and religious personnel at times of war, instead of traditional red cross or red crescent symbol. People displaying any of these protective elements are performing humanitarian service and must be protected by all parties. Why would these countries not sign on to that? That's so weird. There must be a reason. Why didn't countries sign on to Protocol 3 Geneva Convention edition? I'm not going to find an answer to this. Specific. Protocol 3. Why didn't countries sign? Let's see. Protocol 1 is the most significant one due to the clauses mentioned above. Protocol 2 is Oh, I see. Protocol 3 isn't making it illegal to shoot medical personnel, it's just the adoption of the new label. Interesting. We're not signatories to Protocol 1 or Protocol 2. And then, talk about the Rome Statute. This is part of the International Criminal Court. The Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court is the treaty that established the International Criminal Court. Okay, so that is just the ICC. This is just the thing that established it. Like I think. Okay. And then if we look real quick again at the ICC signatories. I wonder, why is it called state parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court? I guess it's whether you've agreed with the creation of it, I guess. So we signed and then withdrew. Israel signed and then withdrew. Lebanon has not. Palestine and Jordan are full signatories. Syria and Iraq and Turkey have not. No, I said Syria, I'm sorry. Saudi Arabia, Iraq and Turkey have not. And then what was the yellow one? Signator that hasn't ratified. Okay. Signator but hasn't ratified means that like their president or prime minister is like, oh yeah, let's sign it, but they haven't like actually ratified it in their official state body. Okay. Hayes highlighted that many critics of the non-standard uniform policy based their analysis and opinion on the Third Geneva Convention of 1949. They claim not only that SOF captured in civilian clothing or non-standard uniforms would not be entitled to prisoner of war status, they also alleged the practice amounted to a violation of the law of war. Hayes makes it clear that not only is this opinion wrong, it is also based on the wrong body of international law. He insisted the GPW, which was the Third Geneva Convention. I don't know how GPW is Third Geneva Convention, but okay. Or I don't know where the abbreviation comes from. Geneva Protocol, and its predecessors contained no language requiring military personnel to wear uniform, nor prohibiting them from fighting in something other than a full standard uniform. Nor does it make it a war crime not to wear a uniform. He conceded that the status of captured SOF personnel is a matter commanders must consider, and that while military personnel in non-standard uniforms are entitled to prisoner of war status, personnel captured in civilian clothing might be treated as spies and denied such status. Hayes is clear, however, that non-standard uniforms are lawful unless perfidicious, meaning dressed as military personnel, I think. Or, I'm sorry, medical personnel. That is, they are lawful unless they result in killing or wounding the enemy through treachery. Oh, okay, hold on. And that feigning civilian status, including wearing civilian clothes, would only constitute treachery if it was the proximate cause of the killing, injury, or capture of an enemy. Let's look this up real quick. The deception in which one side promises to act in good faith, such as by raising a flag of truce with the intention of breaking that promise once the suspending enemy is exposed. Oh. And it's prohibited in Article 37 of oh, but this is an additional protocol, gotcha. That is, they are lawful unless they're... Of course, Hayes again emphasizes that the devil is in the details, and the line between perfidy, and lawful wear of civilian clothes or non-standard uniforms is far from clear. There are legitimate operational reasons for SOF to operate in civilian attire or non-standard uniforms. Balance between perfidy and lawfulness is determined by the law of war principle of distinction. How do you pronounce this?
Perfidy.
Perfidy. Perhaps one of the greatest contributions of non-standard uniforms is the discussion of state practice